Movies certainly are pieces of entertainment media that are produced hopefully within the allocated budget, but sometimes they aren't. And sometimes they have special effects and sometimes they don't. And often they come out in cinemas, but sometimes now they go direct to streaming. Also, often they have gunfights that are like pa-choo, 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 ah! But sometimes a movie is more like a series of conversations or whatever. 10 movies that lived up to the hype, we're doing a list! Often when a film comes out, I'm like, yeah, you know, that was alright. I mean, it's not as good as I was hoping, but I didn't mind it. Incredibles 2, Dark Knight Rises, The Mummy, Tomb of the Emperor Dragon. Actually, I might not have actually seen that one, I have no idea. But sometimes I see a movie and I'm like, that was everything I expected and more things. So that's what we're doing today, but bear in mind, these are my personal opinions, and you might disagree, but that's hardly your fault. Don't beat yourself up about it. Number 10, Blade Runner 2049. Now that movie is good. It's probably better than the first. I should probably say more things about it, I guess. Okay, so I like the first Blade Runner, but I understand those who say it's boring and dated and a drag and there's far too many extended shots of a flying car going towards a big pyramid or whatever, whilst the music goes and we just cut between that and Harrison Ford's blank, stoned out of his mind face. But you can't deny its importance to the sci-fi genre and movies in general. And I never thought that A, we'd get a sequel, or B, we'd get a sequel that's better than the first. But as soon as Denis Villeneuve came on board, I was like, oh, hang on, he's a great director. This might be great. Because look, Ridley Scott, who directed the first and was slated for a long time to return, he's made some top shelf movies. That cannot be denied. But more recently, he's made Alien Covenant, Exodus, Gods and White Egyptians, and Gladiator, but it's Robin Hood and bad. I thought at best this was going to end up like maybe 2017's Ghost in the Shell, but instead it turned out as good as 2017's Blade Runner 2049. Number 9, Casino Royale marks a high point in the Bond franchise. I think it's my favorite of the entire series. And yes, I'm including the one where Sean Connery becomes Asian, and also the one where Roger Moore is a clown for some reason. Also, this movie came off the back of Die Another Day, which is probably the worst Bond film ever made. Plus, casting Craig for some reason was considered a controversial decision. Now, I am the first to openly admit that perceptually, Daniel Craig is the human equivalent of genetically splicing a chimpanzee with a russet potato. I've been very open about that in the past. But Bond has never been fiercer, more nuanced, and in tighter blue swimwear than in 2006. And I don't think his follow-up films have matched that first entry. I think the upcoming Bond 25 might, because Danny Boyle is directing, but Casino Royale is a good movie, and a better movie than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be a good movie. 8. Speaking of Danny Boyle though, my love for his films is about as much of a secret as my opinions relating to Daniel Craig being the genetic offshoot of a root vegetable and a primate. I enjoy them all on some level. I love the variety. Maybe not so much the James McAvoy Hypnosis one, but I am a The Beach apologist, and I will not back down from that. You're right, it's not great, you got me. But I still like it. All that aside, I thought Trainspotting 2 was fantastic. Big fan of the first, and the second seemed like a natural extension of where these characters might end up 2 decades later, after only some of them realized that you can't just go on taking hard drugs forever and stealing white goods. Now, this universe isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I also know not everyone was happy with the sequel, but I think it's great. 7. Hey, this isn't a movie, but last year I was lucky enough to see Hamilton the musical. You may not know this about me, but I'm a big musical fan. I mean, I got very specific tastes. Les Mis, Matilda, that's a good recent one, Phantom of the Opera. Hell, I even like the Phantom of the Opera movie, and objectively, that is a terrible film. I don't like every musical, however. In fact, I hate Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You might love it, but I think that movie is shit. Plus, also, I once saw a high school production of West Side Story, and let me tell you, it was atrocious. I'd heard, though, nothing but good things about Hamilton, and I was dying to see it. I purposefully didn't listen to the soundtrack because I wanted to be surprised, and boy, was I. Hamilton is fucking amazing. I had such high expectations and it exceeded every one of them. The crafting of the narrative and the wordplay and how it captures youth and limitless potential and the tragedy that eventually befalls everyone later in life. It's brilliant. If you get a chance to see it, you totally should. Or if musicals aren't your thing, you know, do something else. 6. Here's the only Star Wars entry I'm going to include on this list, and it might not be the obvious choice. Now, I thought about The Force Awakens because, hey, I like that movie enough, but look, it didn't really blow me away. It's solid, but beyond that, you know, it's fine. I really like The Last Jedi, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I mean, bloody hell. People are going to scream at each other about that movie forever. No thank you. So what I'm going to throw out here is Revenge of the Sith. Now, I don't even think Revenge of the Sith is very good. I mean, what do I even like about it? The first 10 minutes, you know, they're all right. Moves at a clip. It's a fun rescue. Anakin beheads Dooku, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, that's fucked up. Then there's some boring Padme love stuff, which I do not care for. Then Obi-Wan rides a lizard, etc., etc. Cut to two men screaming at each other on the side of a volcano. All that aside, it is way better than Attack of the Clones.
Why does he touch it if he doesn't like it?
I guess it's a little bit better than The Phantom Menace. You see, I thought I would hate it going in, and I didn't hate it. It exceeded my very low expectations, and even though I don't really like it that much, it fits within the parameters of whatever we're doing in this video. What a stirring endorsement. 5. Next up, we have The Leftovers. Now, The Leftovers isn't technically a movie. Some might even contend that it could be considered a 3-season HBO televisual series running from 2014 through to 2017. That's up for debate. We're not here to get into that. And when I first heard of the premise of The Leftovers, a chunk of the Earth's population just vanishes and no one knows why, but also that it was showrun by the guy who's responsible for a lot of Lost. When I heard this, I was like, get out of here. Not interested. I stayed on that Lost roller coaster until the end. And you told me they weren't in purgatory or whatever, but then they were or something. I don't know, they all held hands in a church and they went to heaven at the end. I can't recall the specifics. But The Leftovers is amazing. And I'm not really going to get into why, no spoilers here, but the way it handles characters and mind-bending sci-fi elements and broken family dynamics and cults. Yeah, there's a lot of cult stuff. Look, it's well worth a watch and makes me excited for Damon Lindelof's upcoming Watchmen series. I also found the ending to The Leftovers to be immensely satisfying in a way that few shows are. Or really movies are, which is what we're talking about in this video. This video is about movies, so make sure you check out the movie, 3 seasons of the TV series, The Leftovers. Okay, now don't hate me, but technically, this next one isn't a movie either. But I think it makes enough sense to be included. Okay, so I've decided to mostly remove processed sugar from my life. I'd heard a lot of people bang on and on about it, and how doing this has amazing health benefits and it puts a halt to cravings and mid-afternoon crashes. But I didn't want a bar of it. Just shut up. Live your life. I'll live mine. Let's just keep those two things separate. But hey, I tried it, and coupled with a reduction in dairy, processed carbohydrates, and intermittent fasting, I've honestly never felt better. I mean, I probably felt better when I was like 13 and full of optimism, and I hadn't yet spent a lot of my 20s drinking heavily. But I'm telling you, man, if you want a movie that lives up to the hype, it's eliminating processed sugar and carbohydrates, plus the inclusion of intermittent fasting, on top of, say, 5 to 6 workouts a week that blend cardio with weight training. That's all I'm saying. It's a great movie. The Last Avengers was pretty good. I mean, even shackled with 10 years of MCU history, plus combining multiple storylines, it totally worked for me. And it also didn't hold the hand of those who hadn't seen the other films. And I appreciate that. But that aside, you know what's not a disappointing movie also? Watching your kid grow up. Now, having a kid isn't for everyone. Let me tell you that. Don't feel like you have to have one. Plus, bear in mind, some people can't have kids for a variety of reasons. It's not uncommon. Also, society and culture puts a lot of pressure on a person to procreate. Plus, raising a kid, if you're trying, is brutal. People lie to you and they say, oh no, it's the happiest you'll ever be, and you don't know what true love is until you have a little version of you. Don't worry about the sleepless nights and all of that. That passes. No, it doesn't. And don't even stress about never seeing all your friends again. Or that you have to eliminate processed sugars, dairy, carbohydrates, adopt intermittent fasting, plus working out 5 to 6 times a week, blending cardio with weight training in order to keep your body together enough so that you can just barely function on a day-to-day level on top of full-time work and the mounting responsibilities of being an adult, because things don't get easier as you get older. In fact, everything gets way harder and way more complicated. You know, when you're young, you have like some responsibilities. Those responsibilities, they don't go away. Like a new responsibility just gets piled on top of it. And that keeps happening and happening and happening. But you don't notice till you turn around and go, oh man, I didn't realize that I've got multiple super funds and now I have to combine them into one super fund to benefit long-term. Why? That being said, watching somebody grow from a pink, screaming, helpless, utterly clueless baby into a little person with their own personality and tiny little shoes that Velcro up, it is something to see. And they surprise you with little things that they've picked up which you don't even know that they've learnt. My kid accidentally bumped into me the other day and he goes, oh, sorry. And I nearly hit the fucking roof. He's 2, and that's like an adult response. And I know you probably think, that's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to me. I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but he's had some health complications in the past, and he's come such a long way. And that kind of response means he's actively observing the world and picking up on social cues. Whereas 2 years prior, like all children, he could barely stop himself from going passively cross-eyed. I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like it. And like I said, it's not for everybody. Do not let people tell you otherwise. But regardless of kids or not, there is something to be said for enriching your life by surrounding yourself with people that you love and can lean on, whether that be family or friends, and there is real purpose and genuine meaning in that. Yeah, getting old sucks, but at the same time, it's way better than being a kid. As an adult, there's freedoms that you have that you just do not get as a child. I mean, if you're lucky, you can buy stuff that you want and eat stuff that you want within reason, and you can set up your world as you want it. And when you're a kid, you're just subject to the whims of others. Sometimes great people in your life, but also sometimes people that suck. And when you're a kid, an adult, whether that be a teacher or an authority figure or some rando, can yell at you for no reason, and you're all, man, why is this guy such a bastard? But I can't do anything about it because I'm tiny and he could stuff me down a sewer drain or run me over with his adult car and I'd be dead forever. But as an adult, if someone's like, hey, you can't have your dog off the lead in the park despite there being 0 people around and this affects literally no one because that's just an arbitrary rule put in place by people who aren't here, I'm going to alert the local council. If someone gets up in your space, with all that, you can be all, hey, I don't care about any of that. Why don't you tell your fucking story walking, mate? Now, I know that narrative sounds really specific, like it actually happened to somebody. Well, because it did. It happened to me. That guy, though, when I said that, he completely flipped out. Now, I know technically I was in the wrong. He was right about the dog thing. But I clean up after my dog. I don't let it randomly dig up things or kill wildlife. Also, why can't arbitrary rules be bent if they affect literally nothing? His response, though, it was really funny because he just started yelling. He started yelling so much. And the more he yelled, the funnier I thought it was. And he was all, you don't know who I am or what I'm capable of. I mean, I'm giving him that dumb voice. He didn't have that voice. He had like a regular guy voice. The thing was, I didn't know who he was or what he was capable of. And I said that to him. I asked who he was and what he was capable of, but he wouldn't tell me. But I don't really think he was capable of much because that was a few months ago and there's been literally no ramifications for my actions. And I hope for his sake he's hatching some masterful revenge plan in order to get back at me for not having my dog on a lead in a park he didn't own, because otherwise making those kind of threats, it's just embarrassing. Yeah, so that was the last movie I wanted to touch upon. All that stuff I just said then, that's all the one movie. Bugger it, I'll do one more. The Last Jedi exceeded my expectations. Sorry, not sorry. Bye! I also have a podcast. It's called The Weekly Planet. It's linked below if you want to check it out. I'm going for real.